Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, you know, today is going to be a live show. So if the music that starts Politics Done Right doesn't come up, it doesn't really matter because we have a whole lot to talk about. Is that right, Shannon?
Heck yes, that's right. We're coming to you from the floor. We bring the progressive voices together, and what's neat is you're able to be over there in Atlanta.
Absolutely. So right now I am in the presence of Rodrigo, who is one of the members of Coffee Party, and one of the directors of Coffee Party. He's going to be sitting in and speaking to us on some important issues in the near term, soon thereafter. But we also have scheduled for 4:05 Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. And let me tell you, folks, for the noise that you're hearing now, it's because for some reason, after we had a lull in this area, a whole lot of people showed up. But we're going to have a great show today. You know, as we continue with the show, let me first tell you guys, Politics Done Right is coming to you live from Netroots Nation 2017, the largest aggregation of political bloggers on the panel. We have Rodrigo, a Coffee Party USA Board of Directors member, along with Daily Kos bloggers, will give us some insight on the progressive agenda. But before I get started with the program, I want to remind all of our listeners that we are a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are The
Monitor with Mark Babawi. That's every Monday at 7 p.m.
And then there's Think Wing Radio with
Mike Honig every Monday at 9 p.m.
And we have Partisan Gridlock with Jeff Berg on Fridays
at 3.
Absolutely so. And then we have Open Journal with
Marlo Blue and Dwayne Bradley. Right now, that's every weekday morning at 8 a.m., but as of next week, it'll be moving to 6 p.m. on Mondays.
And we have The Human Condition at 3 p.m., followed by The Free Minstrel Show with Don and Dwayne at 4 p.m. on Fridays on the KPFT HD3 side. Check out our full schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics to medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is listener-supported public community radio station, so please remember that if you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by the corporatocracy. This is KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston, Texas. We want to hear your voice. We want to be your news source. And remember, to hear this invaluable information, you must also do what we've talked about, and that is to support. That is to support what we do here at KPFT. We have Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky right now. Come on in, Congresswoman. Please have a seat. We're going to be discussing what do we see coming up for 2018. Excellent. Congresswoman, first of all, I appreciate that you're here. Come on up close to the mic, please. First of all, Congresswoman, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you. I've spoken to you several times at different Netroots Nations. And first, we want to tell you thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you've done for women. Thank you for what you've done for the policies with regards to health care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, my first question to you is, what happened?
Oh, okay. What happened, I think, is that you're saying why do we have Donald Trump as
Why
president
do we
of the
have
United
Donald Trump
States?
as you see it?
Okay. First of all, I want to tell you the cardinal sin in politics is disrespect.
Right.
People who feel unheard, unlistened to, and disrespected. And I think they felt like now that the elites do just write them off. Mm-hmm. Here was a person who validated them in the most deceptive way.
Right.
Okay. But the other thing is, so many Americans feel, you know what, this is not working for me.
Right.
My children are doing worse than I am, and the future is looking bleaker, not brighter for me and my family. I've done everything right. I've played by the rules, and yet this is not working. I'm going to try something different. Let's turn it upside down. I see Hillary Clinton. I love Hillary. I work my heart out for her. But I see that as a continuation of kind of what's been happening now, and it hasn't been good for my life right now. Yes, there's been job creation. I'm working 3 of those jobs. And so I'm going to just try and topple things over. A lot of those people, I think, are starting to feel that they were betrayed. We're seeing and hoodwinked. Yeah, we're seeing the popularity even among the Trump base being diminished. So here we are.
Now, I just wanted to speak a little bit about where we were. Now, where do you see us going? Because I'll tell you something. I still am concerned about 2018.
You should be.
Yes, I think, and you tell me, you're a good Democrat, you are a progressive Democrat. Do you think that we are appropriately speaking to the people as they expect to hear from a party that really, in the old parlance, feel their pain?
Well, I certainly think that we need to, the other thing that really works in politics is showing up. Just the act of showing up and listening and hearing people, I think, is really important. And we are. I am the head of candidate services for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and we're really encouraging our people to get out and not talk as much as they listen and hear the pain that and the concern that is out there. We are focusing on an economic message right now. It's a better deal, better jobs, better wages, better future. And under that, some real policies that I think that can make a difference. So it's not just about running against Donald Trump and the Republican policies, which are pretty hideous. And you've seen what they mean by health care is let's cut tens of millions of people and then give tax cuts to the rich.
Right.
That's their one. Really, that's their only economic agenda. More tax cuts for the rich. But we have to have a positive message that people hear and feel that it's authentic. We mean it. We're going to do it.
Now, Congressman, I've been very concerned that, by the way, I saw the new slogan, and I know what it means. I am an activist. I understand all of that. I am concerned sometimes that we don't speak directly to the people in a fashion that shows them immediately how it affects their bottom line. So I get the headline. Do you think that maybe we need to try to have a more striking headline? One of the good things that I see, not good things, one of the things with the Republican Party is they're great at headlines. They're great at, yes, they're lying, but they're great at headlines. In a lot of times, I think we are because of the truthfulness, if you will, we don't come out as harsh in the form of telling people what we can and will do to make their lives better.
Well, let me tell you, when I was growing up as a kid, the brand of the Democratic Party was real clear. It was a party of what we call the little people, ordinary people, and the Republicans were the party of big business and the rich people. So, right now I think we do have to sharpen our brand to be the party that really is the party, in fact is the party.
Absolutely
that stands up in terms of our policy positions for ordinary people. But the messenger, not just the message, the messenger really matters. And that's why we're doing such a meticulous job of trying to recruit people who can speak to the people in their district and at the same time talk about what it means to actually be for working people, actually be for creating good jobs. Not, we need to stand with our brothers and sisters in the union movement. If we don't have more unions, we're not going to have a robust middle class in this country. And union polls well, particularly among people who make less money, under $100,000. So we need to be unabashed by supporting workers' rights and standing up for workers. We need to be with women and equal pay for equal work and child care that enable women to be full players in our economy. And so the messenger, the person who can go into these districts and knock on the doors and have the rallies and talk to people. Donald Trump is a great communicator, even though it's all a bunch of BS, as we have seen. Let's hope he doesn't get us into nuclear war because he's such a hothead.
That is a concern of mine, but I think his generals are probably less concerned because they know they are the ones who do it. But let me, want to, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, say what you're going to say.
I want to back up from that a bit because healthcare concerns me, the whatever the Republicans are going to do with healthcare, but also what Democrats have in store or have not done for healthcare right now. Specifically, right now, Donald Trump is torpedoing healthcare, the Obamacare. I can start with what Rubio did with regards to the risk channels. And the problem that I have is that many people do not understand what happened and many of the increases that's occurring that's really caused by Republican sabotage, they really think was a defect in Obamacare. I don't want to sound accuser, but how can Democrats better communicate that? Because I think, honestly, they have
first of all,
failed to do that.
First of all, we are winning on health care.
You are, yes.
We are winning on health care. Let's take our victories. And I think the victory, when, we give credit to Lisa Murkowski and to Susan Collins and to John McCain, fine.
Right.
It was the people that stopped this huge grassroots movement. So when we do fight, we win. Okay. And we stop this, the 22 million, 16 million, 32 million people would have been kicked off of health care. We know that now about the Republicans. That's what they were willing and voted to do.
Yes.
Okay. So now what are we going to do? The answers are not that complicated, actually. You got a county that doesn't have health care, an insurer? We can have a public option. We can have a Medicare-like option in that district. We can talk about Medicare for all, but in the meantime, as we get there, we can do something to hold Big Pharma much more accountable. How about Medicare? Ask anyone on Medicare. Why shouldn't Medicare negotiate for lower drug prices like the Veterans Administration
That was one
does
of the defects in the bill, yes.
Yeah, and written by the
Republicans when they
by Big Pharma.
Yes,
they helped write that language when they had a chance to do that.
Well, I mean, there has been a fallacy that said that Republicans didn't have an input into Obamacare, refusing to realize that Obamacare actually came from the Heritage Foundation, which in fact was
Look, Obamacare was a compromise already from Medicare for all. We in the House voted to get a public option into the bill. It didn't happen because the Senate changed hands, etc.
Right.
But it's not the answers aren't magical. Now, on the sabotage front, the Republicans, Donald Trump have to own this. We have to make sure people see
tell the story.
Exactly what he is doing, what they are doing, that they are trying to kill any way they can your health care. Let's remember, health care is very personal. People understand their own, whether it's available, whether it's affordable, whether it's accessible. So we have to point the finger very clearly and keep pushing for our solutions.
Yes, absolutely. Well, look, Congresswoman, it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Always
we
great.
We really appreciate you coming in and good for all the work that
Thank
you do.
Feel powerful because you are.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Okay. We'll continue with Bobby Rodrigo, and I appreciate you speaking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Shannon, how is it going out there? Shannon? Okay. Let's see. Yes, did you get all of that just fine here in from Radio Central? Oh,
business is going to pick up now.
Excellent. Now, Bobby Rodrigo. Now, Kelly was around for an interview from Daily Kos. Is she still around, or where is she now? Okay. Anyhow, Bobby, what do you think about what the Congresswoman had to say?
Oh, boy. Is that how we're going to start? Hi, everybody. Well, terminology is important. I'm not a proponent of Medicare for all, but I am a proponent of medical care for all. I absolutely agree that Big Pharma is one of our biggest hindrances to any kind of care or preventive care. I'm a proponent of preventive care as well, and we don't have enough access to that for a number of reasons, actually. The way the insurance companies work, for example, the way the FDA works, and the way that they limit our access to make choices about our medical care. For example, a great example of one of the disconnects by the government and our medical care, it happens around the hemp subject, for example, cannabis prohibition, for example, or holistic medicine. The FDA has put up a number of roadblocks about that. And we're talking about a lot of preventive stuff as well, because we want to lower the overall economic burden of medical care and the cost of good medical care in this country for all individuals, particularly the poor and the middle class, who are always last but not least when it comes to policy out of Washington, so it seems, more often than not.
Well, the one thing that I made one mistake in the interview, and that is I wanted to ask about 676. And it was right on my tongue, and I forgot to ask it. But, Bobby, you and I are going to continue this discussion. But right now I want to bring in Kelly, who is one of
Absolutely. I was talking to her over at Daily Kos. It's a marvelous human being.
Yeah, she's one of the new Daily Kos writers, editors.
Let me get out the way.
Editors. And we want to have a word with her because she has been very inspirational over here at Daily Kos. First of all, welcome to Politics Done Right. Want to let you know that you're live on air in Houston, Texas, and the entire Southeast Texas at this point in time. What brought you, first of all, before I talk about Daily Kos, what brought you to Netroots Nation?
Great. Well, thank you for having me here. This is an opportunity for me to connect with our progressive colleagues around the country who are doing important work. This is an opportunity for me to connect with other contributors and members of the Daily Kos community. And it's a chance for me to just continue to learn what people are doing and how people are engaging in this important moment in our country.
Now, how do you explain what the Daily Kos community, for progressives who are listening to this station right now, many know about Daily Kos, but many of them don't. So why should why do you think this community is so important to the progressive movement?
Yeah, so Daily Kos is a community that is really about news, but also about action. And for me, it is particularly important because it's one of the few places in the
movement where people are not just keeping up with current events, but also acting. So there's a lot of engagement with people, a lot of conversations, and a lot of opportunities to actually participate. And for people who are looking for ways to participate in this current movement, again, in this particular and really important time in our country, I think it offers a platform for people to do that.
Well, you were you a reader before you became a contributing editor as you are right now?
I was a reader, yes.
And were you selected because of that great writing I understand that you do right now? What do you normally write about?
So I write about race and gender and a lot about kind of Black Lives Matter issues related to all of the ways that Black lives and lives of color are at risk for different kinds of violence. And it's not so much that I was selected from the community. I actually came to Daily Kos from doing work in the labor movement around equity and inclusion, but was recognized for the writing and the work that I do and was asked to come on board.
Now, when you write, because you mentioned Black Lives Matter, I don't know if you went to the Netroots Nation in Arizona when Bernie Sanders was interrupted by BLM, Black Lives Matter, and there was a distinct sect within the Netroots Nation that pretty much was aghast, which, given that we are a progressive organization, one would wonder how could that reaction be. You're writing a whole lot of that stuff. What reaction do you get, and are you finding yourself having to re-educate progressives on progressivism?
Yes. Yeah, so I was not at that Netroots. This is actually my first time here, which is why it's so exciting. But I am familiar with that event. I actually interviewed the activists who interrupted Bernie at that event earlier this year. And yes, I get similar reaction in my work around
at Daily Kos.
Yes, absolutely. So the progressive movement is not a monolith. And there are wide-ranging views and experiences around race, and so I often experience that tension as people read my work. And I think it's important to engage in those conversations. So yeah, it's a lot of education and re-education because we're not all on the same page around race. And where we need to go in this moment in time around race.
Now, do you find that your writing over time has been more antagonistic or more educational for the people that you have following?
I think it's probably both. I think it's both.
Well,
I think...
tell me a little bit more.
Sure. I think that for some people who are just now engaging for the first time in a serious way around race, it can poke buttons. And I say a lot of things. I don't mince words. I call things as they are. I talk about white supremacy. I talk about whiteness. I talk about characteristics of whiteness. And I should also say that I have an academic background, so a lot of things I talk about are probably concepts, again, that come from maybe academia that people are not always familiar with. So I think it can be off-putting and shocking to people. And I take that as both a good thing and also educational.
No, you said something that I want to explore a bit more. You spoke about you're from academia, and a lot of things people haven't heard because they haven't heard it from sort of that. I don't want to sound presumptuous, but from that level of intellectuality. Do you think, as a writer, as an activist, as somebody in a community that is trying to enlighten folks, that maybe there is some way that, and I don't know if maybe you've gotten there already, that you get there so that people begin by listening first as opposed to reacting first?
I think that's a good question. So I would say a couple of things. So the term may come from an academic lens, like I use work that is grounded in critical race theory and black feminism, but I don't think you have to have an academic background to understand those things. These are things that are grounded in people's lived and everyday experience. So that's the viewpoint that I try to write from and I try to meet people at. I think that, again, people are still learning, and I think a lot of people are listening, and I think the vast majority of people are trying to figure out a way to engage with topics that are heavy. And, you know, in terms of education, we've all been socialized into a system that doesn't value lives of color. And so to talk about race from a way of saying I'm going to decenter that and center something else, you know, again, can be off-putting from people. But I think a lot of people are listening and struggling at the same time.
Well, you know, I think the distinct effort that what we have here with at Daily Kos, and in fact at Netroots Nation as well, to attempt at you heard at some of the meetings here where they're really trying to enforce diversity, not as a quota system, not as a we're just kind of doing this because we have to, but that it is necessary if we're going to have a functional society, and a society that respects what the reality is, and that is all of us are human beings and all of us have a stake within the society and must be addressed within the society as such, would you say?
Absolutely, and I would say that diversity, equity, and inclusion is important for everyone. So I think there's this common myth that if we talk about Black Lives Mattering, if we talk about equal rights and the ways that certain lives and bodies are marginalized, it means that we're shifting focus away from other people. And I think that ultimately, by bringing ourselves more in alignment with who we say we are as a country, I think that benefits everybody. So I think it's an important conversation for everybody to be having. I don't think it's about quotas, and I think I'm happy to see progressives struggling with it because at least we're talking about it.
If you don't struggle with it now, in 2018 would be the wrong time to struggle with it. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct.
Kelly Macias, it has been my pleasure to speak with you, and thank you for what you do at Daily Kos. It is very important work.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
And, anytime again, all right?
Great. Thank you very much.
Great. Now, how are we doing in our central office in Houston, Texas, my friend?
Houston is going well. I mean, it's hot out here, of course, but we are enjoying the coverage from Netroots Nation right there in Atlanta, Georgia. So thank you for bringing it to us. What else is on the line?
I want to apologize. Yes, I want to first apologize to our audience for some of the background noise. We didn't expect Radio Row to be as loud. I mean, we have the Young Turks. We have several other radio stations here. And but, it's a conference, and you get 3,000 people around, and you never know when a little group is going to get around you. So thank you guys for your understanding.
A special edition of Politics Done right here at KPFT Houston, broadcasting from Netroots Nation. It's quite an honor to be able to hear the hustle and bustle of all the excitement of all these progressive voices.
Absolutely so, and thank you for, before I go any further and before I bring Bobby Rodrigo back in here, I want to tell our entire audience in Houston, remember this is KPFT is a station that works on a shoestring budget, and, those that work out there work very hard, and I want to thank Shannon McCurchie for all that she did and is doing to make sure that this became a reality. So, Shannon, thank you very much, and I want our entire audience to give Shannon a big applause.
Well, thank you, Egberto. I'm glad that you're able to go there on the grassroots floor to bring us all of this, because, it's nice to have a glimpse, just to hear what goes on at a conference like this. The largest progressive, this is the largest annual conference for progressives around the nation and beyond. So that's quite something.
Absolutely so. Now, I want to talk to Bobby Rodrigo a bit about a few issues, and then I'm going to go to the blog of the week. Folks, we are doing things in sort of a reverse order, but the Congresswoman, when her staff came, I said, we could actually get it in at the right time. So anyhow, Bobby, we were talking about the Congresswoman earlier, and I said that I think I made a mistake in not asking about H.R. 676, which is a real single-payer Medicare for all. She did show when she spoke that she was interested in Medicare for all, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it sounded like it. Her answer was a little measured, but it should be. I mean, this is public, and,
right.
And we have a toxic environment.
Right.
It explodes. They take sentences out of context.
Right.
Of what everybody says. So I kind of understood that, but she seemed like she was very into it. As I was saying earlier, I'm not a proponent of Medicare for all. I'm a proponent of medical care for all. I prefer it that way. And there's a lot of parts of it. It's interesting when you were having Kelly on a little while ago, if I can jump for a second.
Sure, absolutely.
You were asking about the Black Lives Matter impact on the Arizona conference 2 years ago.
Yes.
I'll take that a step further into the Seattle incident that happened on Bernie's, and of course the same reaction. I was really disturbed by the reaction, and I'll tell you why. You and I are grassroots activists.
Absolutely.
The reason that we exist, regardless of what we're doing or what the issues are, the reason that we exist is because we're trying to impact what our government is doing. We want to make it better, right? We do better. I'll get to that later. But we want the treatment of the people in the society to be better. I was watching an episode of Mar, and Talib Kweli was on right after that, and he said, nobody has the right to expect the black vote. It doesn't matter what they did in their past. Mm-hmm. And what was really interesting to me is that the purpose of the interruption actually succeeded because he was in Portland the very next day, or 2 days later, whatever it was. At a big
let me just interrupt you a second, Bobby. It's even better than that. He did that night. When he was interrupted upstairs, because I was right there at the front seat.
Oh.
He was interrupted right there, and
Arizona,
in Arizona.
Right.
That night, he had over 10,000 people listening to him downstairs in the base.
There you go.
And by then, the stump speech had changed.
There you go. And that's the point, because when it happened in Seattle, when he went to Portland, the next thing, the issues that are important to the black community was now front and center.
Right.
So the purpose of the activist is to change things.
Right.
Just because it might be an ally is irrelevant. Bernie Sanders was not and is not president, and it wasn't. They didn't go up there and say that Bernie is a bad man and he does this, that, and the other thing. They went up there and said, we are important. We need to be center stage just like anything else.
Right.
That's why progressives shouldn't be upset by successful activism within the culture. And again, I'm a believer of no force. Right. Essentially, I don't want to see. I won't help people do force. I don't like force. People should be able to do what they want. And equality is the main part of our life. And we know that the black community has suffered. If you go back to 1493, and you may or may not know about this, but there was a doctrine of discovery that was written by the Pope at that time, and he basically told when the New World was being discovered the year before and all these other times. He basically said, if you're not white and privileged, you need to get killed. This is the Pope talking here.
Right.
So, and yet I would argue, like in today's Catholicism, it's actually more progressive than it might have been yesterday. So, but just by me saying that, does that make me anti-Catholic? Or you know what I mean? We're just talking about history here, and we're talking about things that happened. I think that the war on drugs, for example, is probably the second or third worst thing that's ever happened to the minority community and the poor community in this country's history, right after slavery and segregation. They have been the victims of something that is essentially a victimless crime. Now, I'm not talking about the drug dealing and the violence. I'm talking about the usage. We have people who are in prison, black people, minority people, white people, whatever, poor people mainly. If you look at the numbers, and all of those are available, we have people in prison across the country for the war on drugs. It's a victimless crime, using. In the state of Georgia, for example, if I had marijuana on me right now, I could go to prison. I'm sorry. So who's giving the victim impact statement?
Right.
There is no victim impact. And I understand laws. There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is you never know what the issues are that affect people unless you really look. And I think that what the Black Lives Matter did at those makes the issues come front and center. It was nonviolent, and that's the key, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing all the time. So
right.
I think that the reaction was wrong, in my opinion.
Excellent. Now, Shannon, do we have anybody? I don't want to forget my listeners if some of them are on. I know we're kind of doing an interview type show today, but if anybody wants to ask a question or so.
Well, we can cue them up now that we're opening up the line. So 713-526-5738 if you want to participate and ask some questions as everything unfolds there at Grassroots Nation, Atlanta, Georgia. 713-526.
Netroots.
Didn't I say that? Netroots Nation. I thought I said that. Okay. Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
Well, there we go.
We are grassroots as well, so we don't mind
Matter of fact,
that
Eric
name at all.
is walking by from Netroots Nation right this very minute.
Eric,
hello.
Yes.
Thank you for
Marvelous
correcting
staff
me.
member. He's a fantastic individual.
713-526-5738 to participate.
Absolutely, folks, 713-526-5738, and you can be a part of it. But you know what I'm going to do right now, folks? Do you really know what time it is? And this blog of the week is going to be the blog of an activist. So, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Now, folks, if you have any calls that you want to make, just go ahead and call. But as you know, we are a bit late for the blog of the week because we had Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky with us. But anyhow, it goes as follows. The title of the blog of the week is Steps We Can Take Now to Take Back What Was Stolen from Poor and the Middle Class. And it goes as follows. Americans are shortchanged, and because of outsourcing, offshoring, high taxes, regulations, and inadequate health care, They are disadvantaged because of an ideologically driven, willful gullibility where we consent to politicians screwing us. Americans need to stop patting themselves on the back as the rest of the world or the rest of the world leaves us behind. Every American should travel to a myriad of cities around the world. They will find that comparatively, our infrastructure, both public and private, is severely lacking. They will see that our government-provided services are severely lacking. Many have allowed the fallacy regurgitated by the plutocracy to have Americans fear taxes. If one gets more from paying taxes for a service that otherwise costs more in the private sector, then one should examine the choices the country makes. Many industrialized nations prove with outcomes that, in fact, the government can work. Not only can it work, but it can work much more efficiently in certain areas than the mythical, more efficient market. In certain areas, private profits are nothing more than a public expense. The math is absolute. So, why do Americans pay so much taxes? Our government uses much of our taxes for the military. We do not support education nor health care and other services to make things better, e.g., as do other industrialized countries. Our tax system is nothing more than a wealth transfer system. Again, let me repeat that. Our tax system is nothing more than a wealth transfer system from the masses to the wealthy few. One must realize that spending heavily for defense means subsidizing many private corporations within the military-industrial complexes that amass massive profits that you, the American citizens, pay for over and over again. Again, a massive transfer of wealth. Now, folks, the same applies to our healthcare system. The American taxpayer pays for the drug research. When it is time to develop it into a product, corporations monetize it, inflate costs, and make huge profits for selling us the drugs we develop at exorbitant prices. Issue after issue, we have allowed the few to screw us all. They legally take what they should not be entitled to have. Americans need to support a complete restructuring of our economy. Here are a few things we can do to really make America great for the masses. And these are a lot of the things right here some of us activists are promoting right here in the state of Georgia. Americans need to support a complete restructuring of the economy. How can we start that? Tax investment income at a higher rate than income from work. Why should someone sitting at their pool or otherwise doing nothing pay a lesser rate than someone who risks their lives and limb to go to work every day? Drug companies must share profits with the U.S. Treasury for all drugs developed with taxpayer dollars. Subsidize medical students to ensure they don't have massive student loans, which ultimately every American pays for with higher doctor's fees. Every American who keeps a good CPA, or rather, every American who keeps a good GPA should be offered pay-it-forward tuition for free college. The larger tax base from an educated American will pay for subsequent generations. Establish a single-payer Medicare for all health system. It is the only mathematically feasible solution to our health care problem. No individual American should profit from fossil fuels or minerals found on their land. They did not put it there. Every American should have an inalienable right to all the country's natural resources. We should profit from our work and added value, not from the value we had no stake in creating. This may seem radical. However, if examined outside of the framework of our indoctrination, one would see it is both moral and fair. Americans must start asserting their worth and extricate the indoctrination established since the country's inception and fortified with the release of the Powell Manifesto. It is hard. It is very hard. But if we are to survive as a country, we will eventually have to get there. Americans must take back what was stolen using the dictates of preferential laws from the poor and the middle class. Folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Shannon, how are we doing back there in Houston Central?
It's quiet on this neck of the woods, but I think that's because our audience is listening. So if you decide you want to join the conversation, please do call in 713-526-5738. We're taking your questions, comments, and we'll be able to ask the people right there at the conference. Netroots Nation.
Absolutely so, folks.
Atlanta, Georgia.
There you go. Atlanta, Georgia. Absolutely so. So, Bobby, I know there are some of the issues that I discussed in that thing that based on your ideology, you're not quite in agreement with. Layer case.
Well, I mean, nothing. It's hard to do that in a short segment. All I can say is that I am not a fan of relying on the government to do things. I want to make the government do things. If I'm going to have the government involved in anything at all, my biggest issue in society is changing to harm reduction from harm. I guess is the simplest way to do it. And I mean in so many different areas. You know, there's a tax credit in Arizona, for example, that allows for people to take this is not a donation thing. This is, let's say I owe $5,000 in taxes to the state of Arizona. Just pick a number. If I'm married, I'm allowed to take $800 of what I have to give the state and direct it in the direction that I choose on the basis of nonprofit help. Now, when people say, well, what are you doing here? I say, well, for example, I donate to Planned Parenthood, okay? So I want my tax dollars to go to Planned Parenthood. They are a 501c3. They're in the IRS Blue Book, and I should be able to do that. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some kind of profit run model like that. But taking it a little further, you know, a lot of the things that are going on in our society are harming a lot of people. I mean, that's really about it, particularly the minorities. And it's like it's never going to change. And I don't want to, and the government is doing it. It's the harm that's being caused to the minorities and the poor is being done by a government. I would prefer to stop government from being involved in their lives and freeing the people. And I'm not talking about some crazy
libertarian stance.
No, because I'm not a libertarian. I hate everybody. Okay, let's be clear here. I hate everybody because I defy you, and I say, and I've told you this, but I know you a long time now, to give me 10 people that exist in our government that work for us, truly work for us. I mean, we go through their voting records. We go, you know, think about it. Voting record, okay? I mean, you go through the list. Bernie Sanders, okay? I like Bernie Sanders' constitutional voting record in Congress. I cannot stand his foreign policy position. I am first and foremost a man of peace in the world. We need to start with peace, okay? And that would change where John Lewis, a progressive, I know you like him. Yeah. I'm only a fan part-time. He's not on my list of 10. He can't make it. Mm-hmm. But he did create a tax credit thing, for example, that allows us to, it's called the conscientious objector tax credit, okay? Okay. It allows us to not allow our tax dollars to go to the Department of Defense. Now, you were just talking about that earlier, about how, okay, so that's really smart. We've taken it, we do better. We have taken it a step further. Not only to redirect, but allowing us to, because we know voting has a problem. And I'm all about voting. I'm all about voting rights. Not even saying that. I'm saying that the government can use our tax dollars any way they want every year because you know why? They get the same amount of money next year. Right. Okay? Now, I'm not saying don't pay taxes. What I'm saying is that I want to take my tax money and I want to direct it away from the Department of Defense. I want to direct it over to harm reduction. How about to combat the opioid crisis, for example? Okay? I don't want to see people go to jail for using drugs. I would rather see them go into a program to stop them from using drugs. If we're going to have the government pay for both, why don't we have them pay more for one and not the other? We have no mental health in this country, right? I mean, so I mean, it sounds to me like it's not necessarily that you disagree with me. The difference that we have is you want a lot smaller government that I am actually wanting. I mean, yeah, I suppose.
And let me hold up for a second just to make sure if I need to get to any of my customers quite yet. Or not customers, my
customers.
Listeners.
We have customers. This is you didn't know that, didn't you?
Is there anybody that I need to talk to, Shannon?
How can I help you, Alberto? There's a lot of tap dancing behind the scenes.
What are you doing over there?
There's a lot of tap
we
dancing
give you
behind
a
the
compliment,
scenes.
then you go off into the woods. What are you doing?
Tap dancing, good sir. Tap dancing.
I like it. Oh, I love tap. Love tap.
No, Shannon she's in that studio all by herself doing a whole lot.
I like it.
Any calls yet, Shannon?
No, actually, I think they're just enjoying your conversation. So.
Okay, well,
continue.
Great, but I didn't mean
I'll let you know whenever they do come in.
Doing. Okay, continue.
Well, I'm watching tyranny happen. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm watching. Now, okay, if we look at it, let's just take it for example. We see a lot of police killing.
Uh-huh.
Okay, for example, we see bad police policy being enforced by bad police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I would argue that it is the lower percentage. As much as I am into liberty, and I know a lot of cops that I would go to the mat with. They are marvelous human beings. The more of them are, but I don't care if it's only one. When you have police policy, my biggest thing about all of this is people are dying on the basis of what our government is doing. So I want to say to you, Egberto, you're my neighbor. What the hell are we going to do to fix your and my life? And I want us to be in more control of it. And I really think by doing more things local, and we're all about local, we shrink it a little bit because we're focusing more. Washington's wasting my time right now.
No, let me ask you something. I agree with doing a whole lot of stuff local. In fact, that's what the Indivisible movement is based on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of local, working with your local congressperson.
A lot of movements are.
Now, what specifically do you want, however, to see less of in the government? Now, both of us agree that we want to see a whole lot less defense because we don't really need it.
Absolutely.
Defense could be cut in.
It can be cut 5 times. And the other thing about that, and this is very important, this is one of the reasons why I scream about foreign policy, and I think the left does not talk about foreign policy enough. I think the right gets away with murder on it when we're talking about ideological approaches to it. I am, as you know, we've had this discussion before about what real progressive are. I hate labels. We know I hate labels, but I come from the anti-war progressive world. I come from I don't trust government world because of what they're doing to us. I mean, you and I both grew up in the 60s. We weren't adults, but I lived in New York City. I saw what was going on everywhere, and it was governments that were doing it, and it was government that was helping it. I mean, you have both sides of it. So when you deal with the peace issue, we're warmongers. We have an imperial approach to the world when it comes to our military. We are supposed to be only defending. So if we change the policy plus remove the money wouldn't be needed. It's like, for example, Colorado has legalized cannabis.
Right.
And I had a meeting. I was in Colorado recently, and I was with the marvelous Ashley Weber at a meeting with government people from Australia who came over to have a consult on doing legalization. And one of the things I said to them, I said, when you look at this whole approach of legalization, remember now that you now have money available within your tax structure that no longer needs to go to jailing people using cannabis.
Right.
So not only do you gain new tax dollars from the cannabis sales, but you now can divert tax money you already have somewhere other than harm. That's what I mean about harm reduction. So let's bring line one with Brother John. Brother John, come on in.
How you doing in Georgia, Egberto?
I am doing great in Georgia, and it's a pleasure to have you on the line, Brother John.
Make sure you get some good local barbecue. I was there for work a few times. They got some good food.
Okay, great.
Okay, listen, here's what I gotta say.
Bobby lives out here. Let me hear
what I gotta say. He has no domestic policy whatsoever. He has no medical plan whatsoever. He has no foreign policy whatsoever. And he really doesn't have any energy policy whatsoever. Now, most of his cabinet...
Is he talking about Donald?
Yes, I'm talking about Donald. Now, most of his cabinet members have enough connections to where they could do some things there. But even half of those positions he hasn't even filled, and there's 172 state positions that still go unfilled. So that's what we got to deal with.
It is a shame. It is a shame that that all of that is true. But right now we're stuck there. But that's why, Brother John, what we have to be doing right now is working. We believe in progressivity, or whatever that correct word is. We have to be pushing that as something to help the average American citizen now, and make sure that it's realized in 2018.
Yeah, my lips are bleeding from biting my tongue. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, Brother John.
Exactly. I don't want to turn
no room for hate, brother. There's no room for hate, brother. No, there isn't. Room for hate. If we don't talk to each other, we have a problem.
That's right. Why you see that.
But you know what? That's the thing. We talk to each other. We talk to each other. Okay, that we do very well. But don't you feel you're preaching to the choir most of the time?
Let me tell you, I am so happy that you brought that up, Brother John, and that is a very important concept. Brother John, it is very important. You brought up an important concept, and let me tell you what I'm talking about. That is something that I try now, even here at Daily Kos, on my own blog, and with Bobby as well, to promote that we have to stop only talking to the choir, only speaking to the choir. We try to address, in fact, with the coffee party that Bobby and I represent here as well, what we try to do is engage different groups with the idea
that's why my wife hates to take me to the grocery store. Because I tell people at the grocery store, perfect strangers, I'll stop them. And we'll just start talking. Because I'm one of them people you can just talk to.
You know what? But they're not strangers, brother.
Now we got to go to the laundromat once a week. So I've got two places now. My wife's going, oh, my God.
Oh, okay.
But you know what, brother? We're not really talking. You're not really talking to strangers. You're not really talking to strangers. You're talking to people in your own community at your own grocery store. I know you might not know them, but it's your community. I mean, these are your neighbors.
That's where it starts.
I don't know how old you are, but I grew up with neighbors. I mean, we talked.
Yeah,
I
did too.
It didn't matter what we talked about.
I'm also.
I was born in '62, so same thing.
Yeah. Let me tell you something, Brother John, and I think what it's important, and Bobby said it best. We're a community, and what we've allowed a lot of politicians to do is a lot of politicians have taken away community by segmenting us, by putting wedges between us, so that they can have the ability to segment the segment.
It's as simple as divide and conquer. That's all it is. They're still playing out of a 3,000-year-old war put out by a Chinese philosopher.
Sir. We have to be able to supersede that. We have to, Bobby likes to talk a whole lot about local and independence and so forth. He's absolutely correct. We have to be the ones who break that cycle. It's not the politicians, because the game's been working for them for a long time. Very much thank you for calling, Brother John.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else waiting for coming into the show?
Not at this moment, but we actually...
Her name is Shannon.
Yes.
He forgot your name. I watched it. He forgot your name. We're on Facebook.
Hey, Brother John.
No, I didn't forget. I was actually thinking three steps ahead.
We'll go with that.
Well, Wayne joined in.
We're going to go with what he said. It's his show. It was my show. We just caught him. But it's his show. We're going to go with him.
If it was the Bobby show, it'd be totally something different, wouldn't it? Well, Wayne called in and he said he's enjoying what he's hearing, and he'll call in next week to bring in his commentary, and so we can fully break down everything that was covered in this conference. But he likes what he's hearing, and that's why he's just glued to that radio. And I know many of our other listeners feel much the same way. So, but if you do have a question or comment, we have a few more minutes left. 4 more minutes for you to call 713-526-5738 and join the conversation.
Yes, and folks, we are where it is happening. We have the several Congress people walking the aisles. I was about to go get Donna Edwards, but
I think we should tell everybody, and I know you did this last night when we were at our event last night. But it was one of the most wonderful things happened. And again, for me, I don't care what the persuasion is. We were there, and we walked 15, 20 candidates for Congress.
Right.
20 candidates for all offices across Georgia and other. We had somebody from Missouri,
New
Jersey people there. It's great to see at the grassroots level, this is what it's all about, people getting involved, to make the change going into the elections, and there was a stage full of people. It was great.
Yeah,
of all kinds of offices.
I blogged it, right, yeah. Now, I mean, folks, and what Bobby said is so important because what we saw here was a whole lot of new candidates come to this conference and made it known that they are running and they are seeking your support. And this was all across, again, like Bobby said, this is a national event. This occurred throughout, or it's occurring throughout the country. So for those people right now who are feeling a bit concerned about where the country is going, I've always told people America is a strong country, and we are going to decide if we are going to get into a place of irrelevance or not. My belief is that most Americans don't want to be irrelevant. They don't want the country to be irrelevant. They don't want to be personally irrelevant, and they intend to do something about it. And that's why we are seeing the fervor that we see with the amount of people that are running here in the South. I just came from a Daily Kos conference, and
I stopped in.
And you heard that number that in the South alone, from Oklahoma to Georgia to Virginia, just that area, there are 1,000 new progressives running for office. Shannon, come on in, my friend.
How can I help you, Egberto?
Well, I just wanted to know if we have any red lights before I brought Bobby back in, and then we close the show down.
Our good friend Jeff, the fishmonger, he called in. He said he is glued to this conversation, so he's enjoying it immensely. And they're ready to hear more about this conference when you get back.
Okay, excellent.
And you have 1 minute
Bobby,
left.
Okay, Bobby, give me a 30-second closer.
One, I take liberty with my coffee, just so you know. And I have to tell you guys, pay attention, please. WeDoBetter.org. We do better. We're giving you some new choices in society. We have a new approach, brand new approach. Take a look at it. It's always great to stop by and hang out with you, my brother.
I appreciate it, my brother. And I want to first, before I close the show, I want to give a big thank you again to Shannon McCurchie, our producer, our tap dancer, and everything in between, because she made this happen. I asked her, hey, I really would like to do this from Netroots Nation, and she said, I'll make it happen, Egberto, and she made it happen.
Egberto.
So, folks, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and we are
Thank you
out.
very much for listening to Politics. Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.